Dith da, as they say in my part of the world, and welcome from me, Martin Smith, aka Cornish Grandad, to my YouTube channel. I trust you're well and interested in learning the fundamentals of using Blender. Pyromaniacs rejoice! Today we will light our fire with no risks to property or persons. The realistic fire will add some movement and interest to our otherwise still scene. Today we will cover some important new concepts. These will be our first foray into Blender's physics simulation. The physics simulation in Blender has been greatly improved recently and includes wind, explosions, liquid, cloth simulations, so-called soft body and hard body physics. Combining these, you could, for example, have a cloth fall onto a table, of which more next session. Have a flag blow in the wind, bounce a rubber ball, smash a wrecking ball into a wall, or build a realistic pendulum clock. But today we'll limit ourselves to creating a fire. The fire and smoke are contained within a simulation volume called the smoke domain. Literally a box within which the smoke and fire are contained. The simulation, the smoke and fire develop over time and can be played back, rewound, paused, etc. using the time interface, rather like a playhead on a YouTube video or DVD player. Simulations are very CPU intensive and can run slowly and jittery. Now, baking is a CG term for pre-processing and storing results that will be played back in real time. Let's get the CG matches out. Here we have our kitchen scene as we last left it. It's beginning to develop. We've got the table with kitchenware on it. We have our window with glass in it, letting light into our scene, and a fireplace with a grate. And hopefully you added some logs to your fireplace. I have some logs in mine because we're going to use these as the emitter for the fire. Now, creating fire in Blender can be very complicated, but somebody has simplified the process by creating this thing called a quick effect. So go to Objects, Quick Effects, and then go to Quick Smoke. Yes, I know I said we're going to quick smoke, we're going to create fire, but down here you've got the box. Click on this, click Smoke and Fire, and then also click Render Smoke Objects, otherwise you won't see your logs. And immediately you can start to see some fire. The Quick Effects has created this thing called a smoke domain, which is probably what's highlighted at the moment. It's a big box, and that's your fire sits inside that box, and that is far too big because we seem to have set light to the whole kitchen at the moment. So we need to scale this down so it fits into the size of our fireplace. And we need to move it, in this case I need to move it down so it sits on the fireplace. You'll have a problem if your smoke domain is outside the size of your emitter. I could go a little higher with that actually, I think. It looks about right size wise. A little bit bigger. Grab it, move it up on the Z-axis so it just sits on the fireplace and it's under the size of this hood. That'll probably be about right. Now at the bottom you will have your timeline. Unless it's a simulation, it actually runs over time. So if we hit the play button, see our fire developing. See it's casting some interesting shadows at the same time. Also notice up here it is running very, very slowly. So that should be 24, 30 frames a second. It's running really slowly. That's because it's very computer intensive running the simulation. So what we can do is we can actually bake this, but before we bake this, we'll change some settings. So we'll pause that for a minute. I should point out that the shortcut for play is obviously a spacebar. I tend to hit the spacebar by mistake quite a lot, and I find that quite annoying, so I've actually changed my default to shift spacebar, so if you see that, it doesn't matter. First off, this simulation is running from time 1 to time 250, which is probably longer than we need, so we can take that down. Let's take it down to 100. And let's look at the physics properties related to this smoke domain. So if you click on this icon, it says physics properties. It looks like a helium atom to me. This is the physics options we have. We're currently running a fluid simulation, which is smoke's part of the fluid domain. And I'm not going to go through all these at the moment. Resolution is the one that gives you greater detail, but obviously the higher the resolution, the slower it runs. But the only one we're particularly interested in at the moment is this cache. And if it's hidden, obviously just find the cache and open it up. Okay, so what we can do is we can bake. And baking is a process where we do a lot of the computations and save them to speed up the processing. And it will bake into what they call a cache file. That cache file you can put wherever you like. I always store mine in a temporary file in my Blender folder. I don't know why, but the start and end time for these never matches these, so we can set that to 100 as well. And if we set type to all, then we get this option that says bake all, which will now bake that calculation from between 1 and 100 frames. See the progress bar at the bottom increasing as it bakes. So it is finished baking. Let's set it back to the beginning. Play that again. It's still struggling to keep up, but it will be faster. When we render this, which is create the video for this, it will work a lot better. That's the end of this very quick introduction to creating fire. I'm sure we'll do a more detailed one later on. If you want to play with any of the, you will need to free all baking and then rebake. And I hope to see you next session where we'll create a cloth simulation. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed and learned something from this tutorial, and if you have, then please support this channel by clicking like. And if you want to see more in the series, then please click subscribe. Next tutorial, we'll drop a tea towel onto the table. Suzanne will be so pleased. The link is on the screen. Keep in touch, and I hope to see you soon.